our speaker today, Dr. Kim Bynum. She has a great background. Currently, she's a realtor with Berkshire Hathaway, but she's also chair of the board for Operation New Uniform. She's a retired military veteran from the Navy, 21 years in the Navy. Thank you very much. And she's also a former professor of leadership, management, and economics. Currently, she's a teacher at Jacksonville University, Christian Brothers University, and DeVry Keller School of Management. She holds degrees in electrical engineering, business administration, and management, and she wrote her PhD, a dissertation on motivational behavior. Besides her role as the Operation New Uniform Board Chair, she serves Operation New Uniform veterans as one of the program trainers, helping guide them towards success. So everybody, please welcome Kim Bynum as our speaker today.
Awesome, thank you for that. And I know that for those of you that stalk things ahead of time, I don't look at all like my picture when we thought we were gonna have Rashawn Ferguson from Operation New Uniform. That's my twin sister. But thank you guys for flexing to allow me to speak. My schedule became open and I kind of muscled my way in and asked if I could speak with you guys today. And Rashawn graciously agreed and Michelle said, go for it. So thank you guys for having me. What I'd like to do, my understanding is I have about 15 minutes, give or take, and I don't have PowerPoint. Typically I do because that's how I keep myself on track. It's more for me than for the group. But what I'd like to do today is just share a little bit about me, my transition from the military to corporate, and then share a little bit about Operation New Uniform, how it got started, and exactly what is Operation New Uniform, because basically Operation New Uniform is a nonprofit 501c3 that's been around for 6 years, that our mission is to help veterans make that transition from their military service into corporate, entrepreneurial, nonprofit, wherever it is that they want to land, to find a career, not a job. And so I think that the best way for me to talk about ONU is to give you some background on, what are some of the challenges that I faced transitioning. And I did my transition, here in Jacksonville. But we'll get into that when I talk a little bit more about me, just so you kind of know who you're listening to and whether you're gonna pop off or keep listening. I did, for those of you that like to multitask, I did put my LinkedIn profile, a link to it up in the very top of the comment section in the chat room, as well as Operation New Uniform's website. I know sometimes people like to stay busy while they're listening to somebody speak, so I thought you guys could go and look at that. You won't hurt my feelings. I won't even know. So without further ado, let me get started. And I'm looking at the screen here, and I'd like it to be a little interactive. I mean, I'll talk, but please raise your hand, unmute, whatever, interrupt. What I'm hoping at the end of this, time together, that we will have figured out some ways where there's some synergy between what I do, what Operation New Uniform does, and what you guys do. And so please look for those areas of interaction, integration, and connection, because that's kind of what I'm hoping the outcome will be from you getting to know me and me getting to know you guys today on this call. And definitely, please, I would love to connect. I love to connect other people, but I like to connect, and we can do follow-up calls and Zooms. So with all that said, that's kind of my upfront contract. If you're Sandler trained, that's my upfront contract of what I want to get done today and what I'm hoping the desired outcomes are. I want to ask everybody on the call, though, and I can only see maybe half of the participants. Will you raise your hand, or will you guys yell out if you know somebody is a military veteran or National Guard, any of that stuff? Cool. So we have quite a few. How many of you had a family member or married to or whatever military veteran in all those branches? Yeah. So what I found, okay, well, how many of you, let me ask the final question, how many of you know somebody that's a military or work with or come into contact, your neighbor's a military person or veteran? Yeah, so in one of those questions, you probably raised your hand, and that makes sense because you guys know as well as I do, Jacksonville is a hub for the military. We're blessed with that. So we all know the economic impact and beyond to our community of our military and our military veterans, so we're blessed with that. And we have that connection, right? Everybody has some sort of connection to the military, to our veteran population in one way, shape, form, or another. So so with me, let me talk a little bit about me, but I wanted to share with you that we are all connected. One way or the other, we're connected to the veteran population. And so for me, you guys heard my bio a little bit. I did 21 years in the Navy. I was enlisted and then became an officer, had all kinds of great, cool jobs. I was blessed. I have a special needs child who's 26 now. I was blessed to spend from 2002 until now, but until 2013 in my military career here in Jacksonville. I went all over the place. I wasn't here, but my family was here, was planted here. And the Navy did that mainly because I had a special needs son. So Jacksonville, when we retired, we knew we weren't going anywhere. This became and has been our home. And so now that I'm involved in the veteran population and with Operation New Uniform and out in corporate, and I'll talk a little bit about my transition in a minute of what I've done since the Navy in 2013, I've come to realize that, how important it is for us to keep the veterans here. Like, I wanted to stay because I love Jacksonville, and I think that's the way a lot of military feel, but they have a lot of choices. And so what I've come to understand is how important it is and how much the veteran population contributes to our businesses. Lots of new businesses come to Jax and they tell us it's because we've got veterans to hire, we've got academia, we've got great colleges here with great graduates to hire. So lots of good reasons, but one of those is the ability to hire the right people that are already here in Jax, and we want to keep those vets here to take those jobs to help our business community. And if you think about it, and if you look around, you'll see that a lot of times veterans and sometimes still active duty military tend to be like our coaches, our kids or our grandkids, coaches of sports, or they're the leaders in your church, or here you guys are, you're in Rotary, and many of you raised your hand to be veterans. And so that leadership and that contribution back to community is super important. And so I share all that to say, one of Operation New Uniform's biggest tenets is to serve the business community, to serve the community at large in Jacksonville. And we are looking to go national, but for right now, I'm going to stick with Jacksonville. So that's the opening. Let me segue a little bit into military transition and how military folks fare when we're transitioning from our military careers over to civilian. We're not even allowed to say that anymore after going through Operation New Uniform, to the corporate sector or to a nonprofit or entrepreneurial. It can be a challenge. It can be a challenge. And what I'd like you guys to think about is, can you think of, based on what you know or maybe your own experience, what are some challenges that you believe that military veterans could face when they're trying to do this whole thing from their veteran service to corporate?
Some of them I feel like I can't really.
I'll wait. I know a veteran's been through it. Is it easy or hard, do you think?
Hard.
Hard? Do they just get out and make tons of money and easily integrate to the corporate culture, or do you think that there's some things that maybe veterans could use some help with?
I think connecting their specialized training to the jobs that are available.
I love that. I think that was Leslie. Thank you for that. So talking about articulating the military skills, what we did in the military so that corporate can understand and relate that to how veterans can serve and solve problems and make impact within your organization. So Leslie, that's powerful. That's a good one. Can you guys think of any others? And then I'm going to tell you some of my funny or not so funny stories about my own personal experience. Does any veteran out there have an experience that you want to share?
I can just offer you what we found on the railroad. We were somewhat hierarchical, so veterans just fit really well when they came in. Now, granted, there was some culture shift, but the culture for us was pretty good. I would imagine if you didn't have as traditional a culture as what we had, it would be much more difficult.
I love that, Mike, and I thank you for bringing that up, because certainly, corporate culture can sometimes resemble the more traditional or hierarchical military, and that's a easier fit. And you even said there's still some challenges. So let me share with you a little bit about my experience, just so you can, I can tell you what I went through, and maybe Greg Anderson can tell on me a little bit. But when I transitioned out of the military in 2013, it was actually, I was on terminal leave, and so I had called up an admiral that I used to work for and said, can I use you as a reference? I'm about to go find a new job. I retired and now I'm going to stay in Jacksonville and I don't know what I want to be when I grow up, but I want to find a job. Will you be a reference? And the admiral said to me, no, you can come and work for me, because he was having a challenge with his own transition from being an admiral to being the director of military affairs at the city of Jacksonville. And so I took this job. I had no idea if it was what I wanted to do, or I didn't even think about what do I want to do. I was like, great, oh my gosh, I have a job, yay. And so I will tell you that that was probably the third job that I interviewed for as I was leaving the military and then landing. And so I want to tell you about my first interview. The first interview I'd ever had, remember, I've been in the Navy for 21 years from the time I was 19 years old. So the only other interview I'd ever done in my entire life was like Taco Bell when I was 16. So here I am, 21 years later, I'm trying to be at the corporate, not C-suite, but at least, pretty close to that based on my experience and skill set. And I'd never interviewed before. So one of the interviews I went on, I really wanted this job. It was a super cool job, small company. The lady and I hit it off and we were doing great. We were both just those heavy, heavy powered, go get them kind of aggressive type, chicas. And we were like, this is going to be great. But I had to interview with the CEO of the company. When I met with him, here I am excited to finally be in heels and earrings and lipstick. And I'm all dressed up and I go to this interview and I thought it went fantastic. I was confident, I was poised, I felt like I could do the job and was articulating how I could benefit the company. And then the lady called me back, the lady that really wanted to hire me. She was the operations director. She's like, Kim, you scared him to death. He was so intimidated by you. He was like, no way. That girl's not going to fit in our culture. So I didn't know what I did wrong. I thought I was soft. I thought I was, corporate. But I had just walked off of a tour at Southcom where we were planning on, bombing, whatever country, and doing all those plans. And so I didn't know where I went wrong. I didn't know what I did. And I was so disappointed. So I was thankful to my admiral that I was like, okay, I have a job. I don't have to interview. He already knows me. Geez, Louise. But then I was at City of Jacksonville for several years, first in the military affairs and then in the medical examiner's office. And guys, I'm telling you what, man, the first meeting I ever went to, now I go from military to local government. And the first meeting I ever went to, I'm pretty sure I dropped a cuss word. And the lady that was, with me for the meetings kicking me into the table, and she's like, you can't do that. And I was like, oh, yeah. Can't be cussing anymore. I'm not a sailor. But at the end of the meeting, it was a 90-minute meeting that we were done. And I was like, hey, who's doing what? What's the action here? Like, what are we getting done? We just had this meeting and wasted our time. And again, I'm getting kicked under the table because I am blowing it, you guys. And I'm like supposed to be this important person in, in this department, and I'm brand new, and everybody's looking around the table, and it's like the staff and whoever, and they're just like, who are you? Get it together. And so at the time, I didn't understand the struggle. I didn't understand what was going on with me and why wasn't it working? I felt very capable, kind of understood what I needed to get done, but I was always having these pockets of resistance that I was creating. And so bottom line is, I did that job. I had a great time. I know I probably made a lot of people mad just because of the way I communicated and didn't understand how to integrate and how to communicate well. I didn't have that emotional intelligence to do those things. But I also didn't really know what I wanted to be when I grew up. And so I did that job for a couple of years, and then I got a little bored. And so I hopped over to Wounded Warrior Project and did that job for a while, Chief of Staff of Programs, which I loved. But it turned out that the C-suite level, making lots of money, that wasn't fulfilling me, even though the mission was great. And I was like, what's wrong with you, Kim? This is what you said you wanted to do. Go corporate, be, bigwig and make strategy and policy decisions. And so I got my doctorate and said, okay, well, let me do that and see if I want to teach. And so I've been a professor, and I'm still a professor. But I say all that to say, some of the challenges that military struggle with are the things that you've heard me describe, which is not really knowing where we want to land when we get done, not understanding how to translate and articulate our skills, like Leslie said, to the business world. Then once we get in there, we don't understand, you know, the culture and how to integrate in the culture and how to communicate effectively with different personality styles, because we haven't had to do that. When I was in the military, you guys, I was a big deal. And when I said something, because I had that rank on my shoulders, people just said it. I didn't have to say it nicely. I didn't have to explain myself. I didn't have to do any of that, because one, there wasn't time, and two, that's how the military works. And so trying to adjust to all of that and understand a new way of leadership and everything was a big challenge for me. But on the flip side of that, are some veterans that come out total opposite. I was way too confident, way too blunt, way too all those types of things. But a lot of veterans come out with no self-confidence. They come out because they know they don't know how to interview. They know that they don't know how to articulate their skills, but they know they can have great impact. And so that's where Operation New Uniform comes in, okay? Operation New Uniform was actually an idea that was born, and I got to hear about it when I was at the Department of Military Affairs with City of Jacksonville. I love this. The Jacksonville is such a big town geographically, but such a small town when it comes to relationships, because I remember the day that Michelle and Justin walked into me and said, hey, we want to start this new thing called Operation New Uniform. Can you give us some money? And I laughed hysterically because I had been there long enough to know City of Jacksonville is not going to give you money. But so we figured out ways we could connect and help Operation New Uniform. And here it is 6 years later, because that was, or maybe 7, that was 2013. And Operation New Uniform has become one of the most widely respected nonprofits serving veterans here in Jacksonville and now beyond. We're moving to Tampa in 2021. So that's how ONU started. It was just an idea. Michelle McManaman and Pat McManaman, didn't you guys have Pat McManaman as your speaker recently, maybe last month or something? Yeah, you guys remember Pat, handsome guy. I always tell Michelle, it's a good thing you're my friend because he's handsome. So Michelle and Pat together, they wanted to give back to the community. They wanted to give back to veterans because they hadn't served in the military, but they wanted to do that. And so that's how they did it. They sponsored a veteran through their sailor training program. And from there was born Operation New Uniform, which basically uses a lot of the same foundational curriculum from sailor, and then it's tailored to the military. So that's how Operation Uniform was born, from Pat and Michelle wanting to give back and serve. And from there was born this nonprofit. And I was fortunate enough, because I had heard about it from the beginning. I've always been involved, either volunteering, on the board, off the board. Now I'm training. And so just I've been a part of ONU one way or the other since its inception, and I feel honored because of that. So moving into what is Operation New Uniform? What is it exactly? Like, okay, that's great. You help veterans transition from their military career into their next phase of their life. But what do you do, Kim? And what do you do that's different from everybody else? So Operation New Uniform, what it is, it's a 3.5-week program. We go Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and on Tuesday, Thursday, they're doing their career search. But what we do at Operation New Uniform is it's a holistic viewpoint of the veteran. So in addition to the typical veteran transition services, career transition services that you would expect, like helping them with their resume, helping them articulate those skills and translate those skills from military to corporate lingo, the interviewing tips and techniques, how to do a cover letter, how to do your 30-second commercial, all those techniques, we do teach that. But more importantly, at Operation New Uniform, we spend the first week with them, and it's all about their mindset. It's all about their beliefs, about themselves, about what they can contribute, about who they are. Because for a lot of military, our job in the military becomes who we are, and we don't know who we are separate from that. So until we can get that figured out and get our veterans back to not equating their role with their identity, and then understanding things like you heard me say I didn't do well, communicating with people, understanding different personality styles, how to adapt your leadership style as needed to meet the culture or the situation, all of those things. Those are the types of things at Operation New Uniform that our people get, our alum get, in addition to all the techniques that are required. And most importantly at Operation New Uniform, and you guys know this too, when you're looking for a new career, or you're transitioning laterally or whatever, you guys know that it's all about your network, right? It's all about who you know and they know that you're out there looking, and they're advocating on your behalf. And so we have tried to, at Operation New Uniform, establish that network and grow that network for our veterans. Obviously, in the beginning, starting out with our personal network, but now expanding into the community. So that's me. That's how ONU was born. That's what ONU actually is. And so the last thing that I want to share with you before I close is, if you're at all intrigued by this mission, a lot of you have your nonprofits or your causes that are important to you. And I will say that there's always often a lot of synergy between veteran causes and everything else that happens in our community. So look for those points of connections, but let me help you with some of those points of connections. If you're intrigued by the mission, if you're intrigued by, wait, how are you changing and impacting these veterans' lives? You know, we thought you were just teaching them how to get a job, and yet some of our testimonials are, you gave me my husband back, or I finally have my identity back. I feel good about myself. I'm confident now. So with all that said, if you're interested, if it's intriguing to you, if you want to know more about ONU, please do reach out to me. Let's meet. I'd love to have you meet some of our alum. We'd love to have you join our Heroes Gala. It's our biggest fundraiser of the year, and I'll post that in a hot second when I'm done talking here. We'd love for you to get involved. Your time, your money, your resources, your mentorship, your business. Do you need great, amazing people to hire? There's so many ways to get involved that are just touch points. So are you an HR person and you interview all the time and you can mentor a person that might be struggling, because we have in 3.5 weeks, right? Not forever. All of these ways are ways that we can integrate and work together to really, it helps our veterans, but I don't want to say more importantly, but bigger picture, it helps our veterans, but it's helping our Jacksonville community at large to maintain this power base of folks to hire and to be a part of our community, and really to continue that leadership in our community. So I'll stop there. Those are the things that were important for me to share with you, but I'd love to hear any type of question, comment, conversation, any thoughts at all would be welcome and open at this time.
So, Kim, how does your mentoring typically play out? Like when you say you're looking for mentors, what exactly does that mean? Or maybe you could just give us an example. It probably means many things.
Sure. We don't have a rigid mentorship program, but what we do have is people that come forward and tell us, hey, love to get with your veterans, and you kind of define in your mentorship role what you want that to be, what you want that to look like. I'll give you an example. Dayton Warfel, who was at 5-Star Veterans at one point, and now he's doing several different things. He reached out to us and said, I really would like to be a part of this mentoring your veterans. And so he meets as needed. He meets with folks one-on-one and just kind of talks them through wherever they're at in their career transition. It could be mental, it could be, let's do a practice interview. It could be, hey, do you know somebody at Citibank? Because that's where my job is that I'm trying to get. So the short answer, Tom, is the mentorship program is very much, it's not formalized. It's very much, if that's something that you want to do, wherever your lane of expertise is, and you define the time commitment and how it works. We also love to have speakers come into our classes to speak about issues that are relevant to the community. I know, like Meg Hines from Jack's Chamber comes in, and there's a million others, but that's another way if you wanted to get involved that you could. So does that answer your question about the mentorship?
It does, and thank you. And also, have you experienced some sort of mentorship that didn't work out as well as you thought?
To be honest with you, the only mentorship that doesn't work out is if a time, just time commitment doesn't allow. So one of the things that we teach our Operation New Uniform graduates is to be very clear on managing expectations. And so that stuff kind of comes out in the front line, in the front end of, hey, mentorship, you said that you were, Tom, you said that you would like to mentor me in the area of corporate culture or whatever it is, right? And I say to you, well, here's what I'm looking for from that. So it's very specific, just like I kind of tried to lay out what I was doing at this meeting. We try to get those expectations up front. So we haven't had it work out where mentorships have gone badly, other than I have had things kind of start and hiccup and stop because it's hard. The time is hard, right? You commit and then you're like, stuff comes up. That's the only time that it's kind of been a negative, at least on our end, is, oh, I thought you were going to be able to help. We were supposed to meet and it's been, 3 months and we haven't been able to connect.
Got it. Great. Thank you.
Kim, this is Dinkins Grange. Are there similar programs in other military-based communities around the United States?
Yeah, that's a great question. I really appreciate you asking. So even in Jacksonville, you guys know Wounded Warrior Project is headquartered here in Jacksonville. They have a program called Warriors to Work, and we partner with them. We are a partner. We put some of their warriors to work, warriors through our program, and are funded somewhat when we do that by Wounded Warrior. We are so blessed. Just in Jacksonville, there are so many veteran service organizations that can do a piece of the pie to help our veterans. And one of the things that I love about Jacksonville, and a lot of that is due to the leadership of some of you that are on this call, is our VSOs, our veteran organizations, work together instead of competing against each other. And so I can name you a bunch: Onward to Opportunity, 4Block. I already said Wounded Warrior. There's so many organizations out there, and those are just the ones off the top of my head because we work with them in Jacksonville, and we all try to collaborate and be collaborative. So if we're not a good fit for the vet, we pass them to who is, and vice versa. Now nationally, all of those programs, some are national, some aren't. But even the military has their own transition assistance program in one way, shape, or the other. But what we hear at ONU is, oh my gosh, these other places that I've been haven't helped me with my mindset. They haven't helped me figure out what do I really want to do career-wise, because they've never had the choice. So they don't realize they have a choice. Or all of these, the kind of the attitude and behaviors and, that kind of part of it. I feel like that's sort of ONU's niche. That's why our class sizes are small, to be able to have that one-on-one. But that's kind of the long answer, Dinkins, to your question.
Thank you.
Hey, Steve, did you want to ask him your question?
Oh, yeah. So, Steve, are you talking about the work opportunity tax credits?
Yeah, I just want people to be aware, especially the employers or people that work for large companies, to be aware that sometimes the military in the transition, a corporation may say, I like the attributes that they have, but they really don't have the exact skill set. And it would cost me $4,000 or $5,000 to train them up on that skill set to make them good for the long run. And I don't want to go through that expense. And you say, well, did you realize you're going to get $10,000, $15,000 of tax credits by hiring them? And that can offset the training you have to ramp them up to, stuff like that.
That's a fantastic point. Certainly there are those incentives to offset those costs and to, make it, very appealing for employers to hire our veterans. And I will say that we've been blessed with we've started just a little over 300 alum right now since our inception that have gone through the program. We have a 97% success placement rate. We're not a placement agency. We're not a headhunting agency, but just through our network and their training. And typically our alum are able to negotiate salaries that are, they're not all about the money. Some people do nonprofit, but even with the ups and downs of where you're looking for your career, our salaries tend to be about $20,000 higher typically than Department of Labor statistics for the average, wage here in Jack. So we're really proud of those numbers and those metrics. And we couldn't do that without the business community's support. And, some of them I'm sure take advantage of those tax credits. Some just want really great employees, and they, they go where the source is, and so they're able to snatch up our alum. We have HR folks that every time we have a graduating class, they get first dibs, and we send our resumes, out to those folks. Because we honestly, you guys, at Operation New Uniform, we're trying to serve the community. We recruit people into our program that we feel will be able to benefit the business community and will be great assets. That's one of our criteria as we're flowing people into our program, is are they going to be able to go out and be marketable and fill the need that Jacksonville has in the industries that we have here in Jax.
Great.
Kim, this is Les Loggins. Are you aware there's a new publication out that's geared towards the military and vet community? It's called Liberty Life. It's a weekly publication. Are you familiar with that publication?
I am not familiar with that, Les. Do you mind sharing?
Yes, you really need to look at that. It's a gentleman. He's ex-military, Joe Snowberger, and also Sam Taylor, who used to be the former publisher of Folio magazine, have started this, and it's really the only publication, the only vehicle to reach that community in this market. The research has been very good with that publication. Many people don't realize that the military community, the corridor between Kings Bay and St. Augustine is the largest military corridor in the nation. And it's the potential market there is like 350,000 people who are military or associated to military. It's about 23% of the population in Northeast Florida. So I would suggest that you guys talk with them. They're very open in doing articles. They probably run some ads for you. But it's a growing vehicle to reach a very good market. It's not the only way to reach it too. So if you go online and look up Liberty Life, I think it's libertylife.com.
That's perfect. Thank you for that connection. I haven't connected with Joe in a while, and obviously he's, as always, on to amazing stuff. So thank you for that, Les. I will absolutely reach out to them. That's a great resource for me. And also think for you guys, you know, if you need volunteers for something, if you need guest speakers for something, if you need, you know, whatever, think about those kind of connections. Our veterans are very eager to network, to get in the community, to practice these new skills. You know, interning, volunteering, all of those things are what they want to do. The biggest part of leaving the military for a lot of us is, what are we going to do now? How are we going to have a relevant impact now? So as you're thinking about ways that we could connect or help each other, I want to reciprocate and think back to things that might be beneficial to you, whether it's the Rotary or your business or in your community, however you're involved.
Perfect. Anybody else have any questions or comments for Kim today?
Kim,
Mr. President.
Yes, please go ahead, Barry.
All right. Kim, as you were speaking, I was thinking back on my background in our company. We were wholesale distributors of electrical materials for many years, headquartered in Jacksonville, and then we had some branches. And two people in my memory really stood out. I think because of my father's experience as a B-29 pilot in World War II, he was always interested in military people and successful ones. But we had two guys, Bob and Hutch, that really stand out in my mind. Hutch was, we always just termed him, well, he's that old retired Navy chief, you know, smoked cigarettes and drank coffee all day long. Bob had entered the Marine Corps as a grunt and he was in Vietnam and wound up leaving the Marine Corps as a captain. And Bob had the ability to lead people. He really did. He started in the warehouse, progressed on, was a salesman, became sales manager for the company when he retired. And Hutch was there helping managing inventory very successfully for a long time. I'm sure we had some other people that just don't come to mind immediately since this is receding farther and farther into the background. But we were always impressed with the skill sets that we had with the people that had military experience. They were used to being in an organization. They knew what it was like to receive orders, carry out orders, what have you, and really to help lead people. So we always had a really a warm spot for anybody that had a military background and came out of the service.
Fantastic. And I'm sure many of you probably have similar and shared experiences. Sometimes, you know, we don't realize those skill sets that we bring to the table because it's just what we've done. You know, and if I'm telling a story about unloading, you know, Tomahawk missiles and downloading the software for that and getting ready to go kill bad guys and doing, you know, piracy counter ops, that sort of is like can turn people off. But then when you get them into the organization, the skills that they were able to do those things with do translate over between, you know, leadership and being adaptable to change and being creative to get things done. So thank you for sharing that, Barry. I love that. I love hearing that.
I have more stories if you need any.
Cool.
No, we're good, Barry. Yeah, Kim, you know, we're all just unloading those Tomahawk missiles left and right, you know, so. Oh, that again. Oh, that's a good one. Anybody else have anything that they'd like to ask Kim? Okay.
President Tom?
Yes, Past President Dean.
Yep. Are you trying to place your veterans back with companies that are civilian companies working for the military?
So the short answer is no. Now, obviously, defense contracting, we've got Northrop Grumman, we've got, you know, AJ Harold and Associates, we've got plenty of companies that, and defense contract work here. And some, you know, of our vets, they may want to do that. And so we place them there as well. But we're much more focused and geared for, and our veterans are really eager to get careers in different industries, you know, finance, banking, transportation, supply and logistics, IT land, like you wouldn't believe, where everybody needs IT. So what I found is our veterans are really excited to get into corporate, and not corporate that relates directly back to defense stuff. For me personally, I was like, I'll take any job, but no way am I doing anything that has anything to do with related with the military, because I wanted to see what else I could do.
Great. Okay. Thank you, Kim.